All right, let's dive into a real classic, J.D. Salinger's Franny and Zooey. Now, this is a book that basically hands you a puzzle right from the very first page. It's all about this huge spiritual argument, and today, we're going to try and unpack it.
So, right off the bat, you're hit with this question. What kind of story are we even reading? Is it a love story, or is it a mystical story? That's the central tension that pulls you through the entire book. Is this about people connecting, or is it about one person's search for God? Salinger really makes you feel like you have to choose one.
And get this, the narrator himself, Buddy Glass, jumps in and says, "Hey, I've got the answer." He's totally adamant. He insists it's a love story, plain and simple. But then his brother Zooey, who's really one of our main characters, he completely objects. He says the whole thing is about mysticism. So you have the characters inside the story arguing about what the story is even about. And that's it. That's the central puzzle of the novel. We're not just passive readers here, we're kind of like detectives trying to solve the case of what this story truly is. It all kicks off with Franny Glass. She's at the center of everything, and she is having a full-blown spiritual crisis. She's just completely disgusted with all the ego, all the phoniness she sees everywhere around her. And her boyfriend, Lane, oh man, he is the perfect example. He's this pompous, pseudo-intellectual who literally just wants to read his own essay to her during a football weekend. He is the walking, talking embodiment of everything she's trying to escape. So what do you do when the world feels that fake? How do you get away? Well, for Franny, the answer is to dive headfirst into this all-consuming religious practice. It's like she's building a shield to protect herself from a world that just feels unbearable. She finds this thing called the Jesus Prayer in a little book, The Way of a Pilgrim. And the idea is to repeat this prayer over and over and over, without stopping, until it actually syncs up with your own heartbeat. It becomes this constant protective mantra. You can see what she's doing, right? She's desperately trying to find something, anything that feels real in a world that feels so profoundly false. Okay, so enter her brother, Zooey. And he is not on board. Not at all. He sees this whole spiritual quest of hers as a dangerous, misguided way to just run away from her problems. And he lets her know it. Their arguments are these incredibly intense, combative conversations that really make up the core of the book. And this right here, this is Zooey's main problem with what she's doing. He basically tells her, if you're going to say the Jesus prayer, at least say it to Jesus. He's demanding specificity. In his mind, she's turned Jesus into this vague, romanticized idea. But Zooey, he wants facts. He wants doctrine. He wants her to focus on the particular, historical Christ, not just some abstract spiritual feeling. So you see the clash, right? It's this fundamental opposition. On one side, you have Franny seeking this universal, mystical state of no knowledge, a kind of pure consciousness. On the other side is Zooey, arguing for a specific, doctrinal, real-world faith that's rooted in facts. These two worldviews are literally at war in the Glass family living room. But this is where it gets really interesting, and frankly, a little weird. Because if you know anything about the Glass family, Zooey's argument for strict Christian doctrine, it makes absolutely no sense. So what's going on here? Well, here's the thing. The education the Glass kids got, thanks to their older brothers Seymour and Buddy, was the complete opposite of what Zooey is preaching now. They were taught to seek that no knowledge, that Zen-inspired state of pure consciousness. Their religion was this wild blend of global mystical traditions. Zooey is literally arguing against his entire upbringing. So how does Salinger resolve this huge contradiction? Well, he introduces a solution that is so surprising and honestly so elegant, it completely reframes the entire debate. Zooey's ultimate advice to Franny has nothing to do with prayer. He tells her the most religious thing she can possibly do is to embrace her desire to be an actress. Acting. That's the answer. And this is just brilliant. Think about it. Acting is both incredibly specific. You have a script, a character, a physical performance, and it's universally connecting because it's done for an audience. It requires total commitment to a particular role, which satisfies Zooey's demand for specificity, but it also creates a shared experience, which touches on Franny's desire for connection. It's the perfect synthesis. Salinger even weaves this idea into the very structure of the novel. The story is almost entirely dialogue, and it's set in just a few cramped spaces. A living room, a bathroom, a restaurant booth. These aren't just rooms. They're stages. They're sets. The novel itself is performing the very philosophy it's exploring. But, every performance needs one last thing to be complete: an audience.
And this brings us to the novel's most famous and, I think, most moving revelation.
So, if you're going to act for God, who exactly is that? Who is this audience that makes the whole performance sacred?
Zooey tells the story about their older brother Seymour. He once told Zooey to shine his shoes before a radio show, not for the producers or the big audience, but for the fat lady, a single, imagined, deeply human person listening. The point is to perform every single act, no matter how small, with love and respect for a particular person. And then comes the big reveal. Zooey tells Franny that everyone is Seymour's fat lady. The annoying guy on the bus, your boring professor, everyone. And who is the fat lady, really? Zooey says it's Christ himself, buddy. The divine is embodied in every single person. So, case closed, right? It seems like Zooey's specific Christian argument just won the day.
But wait. This is J.D. Salinger. He's way too clever for such a simple answer. Just when we think the whole debate is settled in favor of specific doctrine, he gives us one final, crucial image. After this life-changing phone call with Zooey, Franny doesn't hang up. She just lies there and listens to the dial tone, and Salinger tells us she finds it beautiful, like a substitute for primordial silence. That's the key. That's the no-knowledge, the state of being with God before creation. It's the very mystical state her brothers taught her to seek, coming right back at the very end.
And that's the magic trick. The novel isn't a mystical story or a love story. It's both. Salinger holds both ideas in this perfect, beautiful tension. Zooey's voice, with its specific, loving human message, is like a ray of light from creation. But it's all held within that sound of the dial tone, the universal, mystical silence from which everything emerges.
So Salinger leaves us with this powerful idea to think about. Maybe embracing a specific role, a performance that you do with love for the people around you, maybe that's the most direct path we have to a universal truth. It makes you wonder if acting in its best sense isn't about being fake at all, but about finding the most authentic way to connect.